Welcome everybody to the Genesis Mindset. So today I'm having a special guest, DefiPulsePro, the founder of Mandala Ecosystem, Mandala Matrix. So one thing that really captivated me about this particular ecosystem was 90% of the liquidity of his ecosystem is burned. So it was totaling over $100,000 in liquidity. So this is inspired by the Atropa ecosystem. So there's one particular tweet that really captured my attention. So I'm going to go through that tweet in just a moment. So he's been building his Mandala Matrix in the background for years, but has recently started actively engaging on X. So we're going to be looking at his ecosystem, the liquidity setup, how this is like an ETF, and how he's been inspired by concepts within the Atropa ecosystem. So first, I'm just going to bring up this tweet here. So let me just bring up the share screen. So this was the thing which really captivated me. So I've seen DefiPulsePro now for, well, it's probably been over a couple of months. I've really started to notice him on Twitter. And basically, this really captured my attention. So a lazy way to get PulseChain exposure, meet the Mandala Matrix. So I'm the developer behind this project, and I burnt 90% of LPs, so over 100K or around about 100K, to hand it over to you, the community. So this, we've heard recently that there's Atropa style liquidity and Atropa webs, but unless there's burnt liquidity, that's definitely one of the key parts for me for the Atropa ecosystem. So Mandala Matrix is a PulseChain ETF, 15 tokens, Mandala to Cipher, that move together, offering passive income and zero impermanent loss when paired. Here's why I'm excited. 90% burned, unruggable design. Prices move in lockstep and track PulseChain like an ETF. Pair core tokens, Mandala to EPIF for IL-free passive income. Hold tax tokens, Tang, Cow, Cipher for 1% yield. So there's tax tokens, there's opportunities for providing liquidity, low liquidity, no whales, just early adopters, true ground floor entry. Start with $3 to $5. I hold less than 20% and I'm in for the long haul. I built this as my legacy, inspired by Maria's Atropa vision. You want to join me at the ground floor? So there's his link for his Telegram. So he's just starting all this out. The link is for this tweet is in the description, and it'll have all the token contract addresses there. So we're going to go through this ecosystem. So without further ado, I'll bring DefiPulsePro up on the stage.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for having me. I've been watching you for a long time, and it's great to eventually sort of actually make it onto your stream. So thanks very much. Got a very small community. We've only got 33 people in the TG, and I'm sure they're all excited as much as I am to be on the stream. So I think the best way to do this is if I just kind of give a brief overview, and then we can dive into kind of the core features of the matrix itself. And I see you were struggling with some of the pronunciation, so I do too. So I'll just call it the matrix. I think that's easier. It slips off the tongue easier. So
perfect.
I mean, basically, what the matrix is a PulseChain ETF, and it also provides passive income. So it consists of 15 tokens. The first 12 are just core standard tokens. You buy, sell, transfer them, and you can LP them. And the last 3 are tax tokens. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with PLS PUP, but they're effectively 4 copies of PLS PUP. So that, Stephen, probably gives you some insight into what they are. Now, they all behave like a meta token when paired together. So they're effectively just one big token. If you list the prices, you will see that they all perform in lockstep. So Mdala has the highest price, Epiphany has the lowest price. And if one was to buy one, you will see the R-bots ripple through all the other trades and align all the prices. So everything's in lockstep. And I'll explain now how we get the characteristics of an ETF and how we get the characteristics of that lockstep. So given the 15 tokens, if you LP pair a proportion of them with a wide range of PulseChain coins, so the core coins, almost all the Atropa coins, I mean, Tang, a whole lot, no tribal or community issues there. We just went with a wide range of coins on PulseChain. then you get exposure to PulseChain coins, and this is why it's an ETF. So as those coins go up and down in price, then the tokens in the matrix will also go up and down in price because of Hart's law. So that's the ETF side of it. The lockstep, the way we get the prices to move in tandem or in lockstep with each other, is to pair the tokens up internally with each other. So Mdala is paired with Maestro, Maestro is paired with Geisha, all the way down the process, and then there's some sort of interlinking going backwards and forwards. But if you do that in a particular way, you can cause the prices to stay in a fixed proportion to each other. In fact, you can make the prices equal to each other, but that's a little bit boring. So instead decided to do it in a lockstep manner. So we've got these two characteristics. We've got the matrix, or three characteristics. We've got the matrix, which is effectively a meta token. It performs like a PulseChain ETF, and all the prices work in lockstep to each other. You can see if you pull up the different charts, they all look identical.
Like literally identical. Obviously, just what have we got here? So this is Geisha. So Geisha, the price is very different, but the chart pattern, all the prices actually almost...
The prices will be different, but the chart patterns will be identical. And all the market caps are also, each one is slightly less than the previous one.
Right.
If you put them all in a watch list, it's very clear how everything just sort of cascades down. The only ones that are a little bit out of sync are the tax coins, but that's because they've got a different supply, and I wanted them to look a little bit more expensive. But they are also in lockstep. You can kind of see on that image as well.
Okay, so that's the tax tokens is Tang, Cow, Cipher. So I might just Cipher. Okay, I'll bring up which one? I see. Okay, so these are your three tax tokens here.
Yeah.
All right, let's just bring up. We'll bring up just one.
I mean, at this stage, there's some inefficiencies, right? There's not a lot of liquidity, so the RBOTs can't move around the matrix as nicely as I would like them to. So there are some inefficiencies in the prices, but over time, they all align themselves, and they all perform in lockstep.
Okay, so let me just have a look at this one for a second. I see. Okay, so this is going to be the one with the thickest liquidity, right?
Yeah, correct. Mandala is the thickest liquidity.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Should I go on?
Have a look at the chart. Okay. So this is
you
the
can see how early we are, right? It's so early. So
yeah.
Even though we've had a 45x since launch, it is still very, very early.
Yes, because everything is ground floor at the moment.
Exactly. So the ETF component is ground floor as well, because PulseChain has sold off so dramatically, right? Everything's at its lows. This is what's dragged these coins down. So that huge jump. Yeah,
go on.
Correct.
Sorry.
No, I was saying that huge jump is a 45x, like in 3 or 4 days. So it's ridiculous. That huge pump, sorry.
Wow. Okay, I see. Whoa, yeah, and I noticed your liquidity. So that's like a year ago, right? So I noticed basically, 24th. I saw a lot, some in particular, like 24th of April.
Yep.
So it's like a year on.
Yeah.
So you've had a big pump from the year on. Wow. Okay. All right. So what's been the biggest inspiration that you've taken from the Atropa ecosystem with this particular ecosystem? What was it about Atropa that inspired you to want to make your own?
I think there were a few things. I mean, watching Maria in that Amsterdam conference when she spoke about the way she had, $5 billion worth or 5 billion PDI, And, she needed to do something with that, because clearly she was never going to get any value out of that unless she created some sort of ecosystem around it. So I found that quite interesting, that you could basically take a token with hardly any value, pair it up in a set of LPs, and create value out of it. And, by doing so, Maria's created an immense amount of hype around PDI, and has actually managed to create, some value out of that token. So that concept, together with how you can pair tokens together, which is also very Maria-esque, sort of got me thinking into how you could build a structure that would mimic PulseChain and would also give you passive income. Now, Maria hasn't, although I'm sure you could get passive income out of Maria's Atropa ecosystem, he hasn't been clear about how to actually do that. I mean, of course, you can pair up Atropa coins and LPs and earn yield off that, but you will get IL. You will get IL when you do that. And I think for a true passive income solution, you don't want IL. So the lock.
Do you want to just clarify IL for everyone? So
IL is impermanent loss. So impermanent loss is basically the difference between holding the two coins outside the LP or putting them inside an LP and letting the LP kind of buy low, sell high. And the difference in outcome between those two scenarios is IL. Of course, it can be impermanent gain as well, but if you can eliminate that, you're in a better situation. So by having these prices perform in lockstep, when you pair these tokens in a liquidity pool, there is no IL. You just get the yield. So that's the reason why we are linking these tokens together, in order to create the lockstep pricing to eliminate the impermanent loss.
So that goes to Siggy's question here, where he says, if it all behaves like one token, then why have 15 different tokens?
The reason why you want so many tokens, in fact, if I had the time, I would have had 100 tokens or 1,000 tokens. I mean, the bigger you can build the matrix, the more opportunity and the more paths you got to give to the ARB bots to balance everything off. So right now there are about 4,000 LPs underlying the matrix. There's the internal links, the internal LPs themselves between the new coins, and then there are all the LPs with the external coins, the PulseChain coins. About 4,000 of those. So
wow.
If any of those changes in value, like if someone buys PLS against Atropa, that is going to cause a ripple effect through the whole matrix. And every single transaction that ripples through that matrix is going to leave a little bit behind in fees. So that means the bigger the matrix is, the deeper the matrix is, and the more liquidity there is in the matrix, the higher the yield is going to be on your LPs. So that's why they're 15 tokens.
Got you. So obviously you've structured this in a very particular way in terms of the percentages of the liquidity, percentages of the token in liquidity. So one thing that was really easy, which I really like, makes things nice and simple. They all have 1 billion supply. So then it's very easy to see, except for the tax tokens, right?
Except for the tax. Yeah, they're 100,000 each.
Gotcha. Okay. So then it's very clear to see, all right, well, basically Mandala has 50% of its LP with Maestro.
Correct.
And then obviously then Maestro has...
Well, it has obviously goes back with Mandala, right? Because when you're pairing them, you've got one of each. So when you're looking at the other one, you're going to see the one coming back. It's a pair, right?
Yeah, gotcha. Why is it showing this though? So the quote amount, 638 million, and then on here it's 337 million. That doesn't make any sense.
Don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
that doesn't make any sense.
Too much detail at this stage. I don't know why that's the case. I mean, yeah. I don't know why.
That's Gaisha. Wrong one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't click Maestro. So this should say, once it starts loading up, this should say, I've got it open here. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That's
good.
my mistake. Okay. Okay, yeah. So you've specifically done it in these proportions
to lock the prices. So like if you'd done it in exact proportions, like say 500 million each, then the prices would be identical. But if you do them slightly off kilter, then you get like a cascade of prices down the whole chain. To me, that's just more interesting. I think it's going to make people think about it a bit more. The more you think about it, the more you get to learn about what is actually happening. But we could have locked these together to make the prices the same, but didn't do that.
Okay, gotcha.
Should I carry on?
Yeah, please.
All right, so we've got the meta token. We understand how the ETF concept works, right? Because we're linking to PulseChain coins and LPs, and then we understand how the Lockstep pricing works because we're linking internally with it between the coins. So that's what locks the whole thing into place. But to really lock it into place, now you've got to burn it, right? So if you don't burn it, then you can pull these LPs out at any time and the whole structure falls apart. So you need to burn it. And the more you burn, the better. So, I mean, it was easy at the time, to decide how much to burn because I felt that this thing had a lot of value. And I felt that I could burn the majority of it because it's easily going to recover that value over time. And you can recover value quickly if you can hand something over to a community. And by burning 90%, you can actually hand the whole structure over to the community and say, this is now yours. I can show you how it works, and I can show you, some of the good practices around it, and I can show you how to make income from it, but it actually belongs to you. And that's really what we talk about in the TG. What are the good things that we should do? We need to add PLS liquidity to give sort of lubrication to the R bots. What is a good way to put your strategies together? What LPs to put together? But it really does belong to the community. So those are two reasons for burning. But the third reason is kind of an up yours to the community, because I hate these coins, these pump tires type coins, where the founders are holding like 70, 80% and then dumping on everyone. And I think 90% should be the new gold standard. I don't think we should be accepting any new issues, within reason, that aren't significantly burned. And in a way, this 90% is to show the community that it can be done, and this is what we should be aiming for. So those are the three reasons why you need the burn.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with that, actually. So,
yeah. The next feature, I'm just going to move on, Stephen. If you want to stop me, right?
Please, no, you go right ahead, man. You go right ahead.
The next feature is that this whole structure it's deflationary. It literally is a kind of deflationary beast. And the reason why it's deflationary is because we're burning the meta token LPs. So the LPs that are linked together between the 15 coins are burned. And the fees that accumulate in those LPs can never come out. So that causes a kind of exponential deflation over time. But the only reason why that's deflationary is because...
Okay, hold on a second. So you're talking about, for example, Mandala and Maestro, for example. So because that LP is burnt, any fees that are going through that pool are being added into that pool.
Correct. And you can never get them out.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay.
But the reason why this is deflationary is because both coins are effectively the same. Like if you just burnt a PLS, say PLSX LP, it wouldn't be deflationary. But because both of these coins are priced in lockstep and you burn it, it is deflationary. Because you're basically burning the same coin. So that causes, that's one aspect of deflation. The other aspect is the tax coins are just like with PLS PUP, but not as much. I think 30% of those coins are sent to a dead address. So those tokens themselves in the dead address attract tax fees, which are again locked up in the dead address.
So have you taken the PulsePup code and reapplied it to these 3 tokens? I see.
Yeah, it's the same code. It's the same code. But I think PulsePup has 50% burned. I didn't burn as much, only 30.
Gotcha. Is there any reason why you only burnt 30?
It's only 100,000 supply. I just didn't. I mean, it just seemed the right number at the time. I mean, there's potential to burn more. Might do.
Okay.
But there are other mechanisms that are burning the tax token. So, in fact, this is not just one matrix. It's about 9 different matrices, and 8 of them are supporting the main matrix. So, and each matrix has its own set of additional coins. So there's a burn matrix, or there are a few burn matrix where I've issued 10 new coins and I paired them with just the tax coins, for instance, right? And then I burnt 100% of that matrix. It's very easy at that point to burn 100% because all the coins were worth nothing. But today, when I look at that burn, there's quite a lot of value in there. But at the time, so you've got these sub matrices. This is where it gets a little bit complicated, that are also pulling out coins and causing deflation. So we've got 3 deflationary mechanisms. We've got the burnt LPs for the meta token. We've got the burnt coins, the burnt tax tokens, and we've got the burnt sub matrices. I can go through that in detail at some point, but that could take a bit of time to go through. You just need to trust me that it's there, and it's causing inflation as well, deflation as well. Sorry. So now we've got a PulseChain ETF, produces passive income, massively deflationary, 90% burnt, community owned, right? Okay, shall I carry on?
Yep, carry on. Yep.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the liquidity, and this is where the community piece of it becomes quite important, because the burn structure at the beginning is low liquidity. So we start with low liquidity and go high, which is a better scenario than high liquidity and go low. So we're starting low liquidity, but low liquidity is very inefficient. So you can't take big chunks out of the matrix. You can only buy in small little clips, $3, $5, because the liquidity is so low. So that actually makes it kind of whale proof. Like a whale can't come in and just pick up 20% of the supply. It's not possible because the liquidity is too low. So the only way someone could come in and pick up a big proportion of the supply is basically to add liquidity. So if you're in a position where you want to build a big position, you're going to have to add liquidity, and it's going to take you time to build that position. If you're adding liquidity, then you're owning part of the matrix, and you're not going to dump, right? So this is why it's kind of whale proof. You can't go in there and just swoop up 10% of the coins in one transaction. If you wanted to, you're going to have to add liquidity. Now, if you're sitting there and you're the owner, if the community is the owner of the liquidity, if anyone is dumping, the community can remove that liquidity themselves, and that would stop the dumping. So we've got this kind of community-owned liquidity angle as well, where it kind of self-corrects and self-balances itself to stop the accumulation of too many tokens too quickly. I mean, this is only really relevant at the beginning. Once there's a lot of liquidity, and then people will be able to come in and buy. But at that point, it'll be quite expensive to pick up a big chunk of coins. So, this is one of the things we talk about in the Telegram, that, don't only take positions to earn your passive income, but also add in PLS liquidity, because that will, kick into play this piece of the matrix, and also give the R bots, more lubrication to move around the matrix in total. So the community's been excellent. They have added quite a lot of liquidity over the last 3 or 4 days. But that's another kind of feature that is anti-whale, anti-dump, is that we start with low liquidity and build up the liquidity over time. And if anyone gets nervous, they can pull their own liquidity out. If anyone's dumping, and that's going to protect the price. Makes sense, Stephen?
Gotcha.
Am I going too far?
Makes sense.
Is everything okay? Is everything all right?
No,
Okay.
it's everything perfect, to be honest. Yeah, it's making a whole lot of sense. It kind of brings in quite unique concepts as well. Maybe these concepts were always in the Atropa ecosystem and I just didn't recognize them, but
I think
yeah,
they probably are. I mean, I think if Maria did a session with you, we'd learn a lot, right? But I think these are basically the concepts that are involved with liquidity webs and liquidity pools, right?
Yes.
So let me just get the rest of my points out. Then I guess we can ask questions. So how to invest in this? Well, you can either hold the core coins, so the non-tax coins, in which case you just get PulseChain ETF growth plus any growth that comes from buyers coming in and pumping the price. You can hold the tax coins, in which case you're going to get the ETF growth plus you're going to get tax yield. Or you can LP up the tokens, the core tokens, and then you will get the same growth plus you'll get an LP yield. So you can do that. You can also add PLS liquidity, which we spoke about, which I feel is a necessary thing to do if you are investing in the ecosystem. And then interestingly, you can also add any other tokens. And I haven't spoken a lot about this, but this is also very important because we want the structure to continuously represent PulseChain. And if you're adding tokens continually, new tokens to the mix, then you are continuing that mimicking, but you're also adding a kind of survivorship bias into the matrix. So if you add a token that's kind of rubbish and goes to zero, that's not going to have a huge impact on the matrix because the distance from when you add it to zero is finite. But if you add a token that is very valuable and it goes up huge, that's going to have a very big positive impact on the matrix. Now, if you consider that all the tokens, these third party, I'll call them third party tokens, they're all going to have this kind of survivorship bias in them, right? So it doesn't really matter which tokens you add to the matrix because the bad ones are just going to fall away and the good ones are just going to pump the matrix. And, adding your token to the matrix, in fact, could save it, right? Because the matrix is a deflationary beast. It's indestructible. It's never going to go away. If you pair your token to it, you could pull it out of the depths of despair. So one of the examples I'd like to give, I'm going to give two examples here, actually. If you've got PDI and you kind of getting frustrated with it, then it's a really good idea to pair your PDI to one of the matrix tokens. And that's because if PDI goes down in price, the LP will sell some of the matrix token and buy PDI. So you'll be accumulating more PDI at lower prices. If PDI shoots up in price, I would also expect the matrix coin to go up in price too, because it's a PulseChain ETF. But what you will be doing is selling off your PDI into a matrix coin over time, which is also what you want to do, right? I mean, if you're just holding a bag of PDI, what are you going to do with it? When are you going to sell it at, 10 cents, 15 cents? If you put it in an LP with the matrix, it's going to sell it off for you. And you're going to end up with a lot of matrix coins, which are going to be equivalent to holding PulseChain, right? So there's a good example of why you might want to pair another coin with the matrix. Now, I'll give you one other. If you look at Crypto Coffee, his top hat coin, he owns 70% of the coin. If he paired that 70% with the matrix and burnt it, say he burnt 90% of that pair, that would be a huge statement, right? That would be a statement to the community saying, I'm standing behind Top Hat. I burnt the tokens. It's now community owned, right? And he will probably save his coin by doing that as well, because he'll be linking it to a matrix that is deflationary and is only going to grow over time. So there's another example.
It has the double effect of leveraging on, or basically bootstrapping on something that is going to grow with all of PulseChain, but also give confidence to the market that I'm not going to dump.
Correct.
That basically the majority of this. Exactly. Yeah, so just with burnt liquidity, is there any way for people to be able to very quickly see, oh, this is burnt liquidity? So for example, here, let's just go this one here.
I think if you go to PulseScan and call up Mandala, the first one on PulseScan. So go to Deck Screener and click Holders.
Okay. So
look at the you were there. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Click Holders to the right of Mandala.
Oh, this one here. Yeah.
No, down where you see pair Mandala and WPLS, like further down where you are, but yeah. No.
Yeah, this one here, right?
There, holders, yeah.
No, this one.
No, Mandala.
Okay, yep.
But holders.
Ah.
Did you click that one?
Maybe we're in a lag. Yeah, I did. I clicked on this one already. If this is the one that you're talking about, Mandala, holders. Yeah. Okay. I already got it open as well, so.
Okay, now if you look at the top one, it's got 584 million tokens. Just open the top one up. That's an LP, right?
Yep, that's this one here.
And then if you look at, and if you go to the very top line, I think on that LP, if you go down, I think you have to hit. Yeah, just scroll down a little bit. Can you see one of these? Let me just pull it up on mine.
It only goes down to 5 hours ago. Yeah, so like, would it be under token transfers? Because you'd probably have to find it within token transfers. I guess what I'm asking, there's no like real quick way of seeing if the liquidity is burnt or not. You kind of have to do some investigating.
Just 1 second. If you click on that top, it's not that difficult. Yeah, if you click on that top one and go to transactions.
Click on
holders. Yeah, and then just click on transactions. You're on token transfers. So one to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. Click on that. And then you can see if you open that one up, you can see it's gone to dead.
Ah. What happened here? Bloody pulse scanner. All right, let's try this again here. Yeah, I had a look at this before. Oh, so click on this transaction hash.
Yeah. Yes. And then you can see, scroll down, it says token transfers.
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, that's simple.
Yeah. So that's 60% of Mdala in the dead address already, right?
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, so it is pretty easy for people to figure that out. So, all right, so where were you before I asked those questions? Sorry, I kind of interrupted.
I think we were talking about the unfortunate top hat. And burning. We're talking about third-party tokens and survivorship bias, which I think that's quite an important concept. So I've only really got one other point to make, and that's the sort of robustness and the matrix is actually, because it's burnt into PulseChain, it is actually indestructible. And even if we ignored it, the whole community walked away from it, the R-bots would still do their work, and they would eventually do exactly what we're doing. They would populate all the LPs, they would generate all the income, they would push all the prices up. And it would be hugely beneficial just sitting there by itself to PulseChain itself, because the deflationary mechanisms would push all these prices up. And because they're paired with PulseChain coins, ultimately it'll bring all those coins up too. once it gets big enough, right? But if you just left it alone, it's going to do its thing, right? So all we're doing now is we're saying, community, here it is. How can we make it work more efficiently, make it work faster, and make it work for us, right? So that's why we need to understand how it works and how it fits together, and what we can do to maximize the benefit, not only for us, but for the whole community. Now, let's say someone else decides they want to duplicate this or copy this. In fact, that I would encourage, because they would also be burning 90% of their matrix, which means 90% of coins in the entire community are going to get burnt as well, right? So, so in fact, that the more people that create these, as long as they're burning 90%, the better off we're all going to be as a community. So these things are very valuable to the community. They're like little engines working quietly in the background, indestructible. Eventually they're going to achieve their goals by themselves. But all we need to do as a community is harness them and make them work for us. In a way, that's what Atropa is doing too. It's just much more complicated and much more difficult to get your hands around. This is just a nice little small, 15 token, 4,000 LP set that you can wrap your hands around, you can understand, and you can build a bag of and earn passive income from, never really having to worry about anything else. And then...
Go on, sorry, keep going. Yep.
No, that's kind of it. I don't think there's much more I need to say. Hopefully you're picking up my passions. But I really want you to see that it's kind of going to work regardless, right? Because it's burnt, it's sitting on the blockchain. It's, it's, and the R bots are just going to do it. It's just going to take time. It's going to take longer. And it's a hugely positive thing, because it's like a kind of like a black hole, right? But a healthy black hole. And that is just everything attached to it is ultimately going to get pumped.
So what I want to try and do now is like maybe just kind of show this in a way diagrammatically. So if we just say that this is Mandala, Maestro, and then we can say that this is Mandala. Actually, we'll put this as a different color. And then actually we'll make these bigger. So they're the biggest pools. I'll just do it with like 3 pools, right?
Yeah.
So basically, as any value moves, or as these move up and down, let me just quickly set this up, because this is kind of, in a way, sort of the structure of what you've done as well, in the way that you've set up the liquidity. You mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
So let's do this. So let's say this is the biggest LP, the second biggest LP, and the third, and then you've got hundreds of others more, right? But as the value of just this one changes in this particular pool, it's going to drag this up.
Yep.
And the way that it drags that up is basically ARM bots are going to come through, or really, actually, ARM bots are going to come through, and they're basically just going to leave value between these 2 liquidity pools, and they're just going to keep getting bigger, and then that's going to cascade down, and then it's going to have the same effect. So over time, just more and more liquidity, real liquidity, is going to get added into. Because if you have a look at...
And it's never going to be able to be taken out. Those pools are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And
exactly.
because of that, it's extracting more of the meta token into these pools and causing the price to go up because it's just so deflationary.
Man, no, that's yeah. This has definitely also helped me see things in another particular way as well. So, what I wanted to ask, how much quote unquote real liquidity would you have put into here? So if I look at this, for example, I mean, I'm looking at Teddy Bear. So $51 in there, which means you would have purchased what, 25.60. If you just set this up yesterday, you would have, or today, you would have purchased $25.60 of Teddy Bear to make this liquidity pool, and then paired it with your tokens, and then you've got $51 of liquidity. How much quote unquote real liquidity would you have created with your tokens to begin with?
It's hard to say because I did it over so long, and a lot of that was done at much higher prices. So it's hard to say. I mean, it's not 100,000, right? I mean, the 100,000 is the value of everything. So it's less than 100, but it could be quite a. I mean, it's a significant amount. It's a significant tens of thousands. But the other interesting thing about these small liquidity pools is they're very efficient when they're small. But as they grow, they become more efficient because bots can go in and out of them easily. So there's also kind of a latent boom coming here, right? As all these liquidity pools get bigger, the whole thing's going to become much more efficient. And that's also going to speed things up. So that's the other story with these little liquidity pools.
I see. Yeah, you really have. So you've got a ton of Atropa style, the Atropa tokens, but then I can see
all the Atropa tokens are in there, except for the 666 ones.
Gotcha. You got Dick with Butt. Akosa.
We've got every single one of the Tang gang tokens are in there as well.
Nice. And see, that inadvertently helps the Tang gang as well.
It does. Yeah, it does.
It's putting liquidity into their ecosystem.
I was doing that when I was paying these things up. I was thinking, I'm going to save you, man. Boom, there you are. You.
Nice. Where can you get a list of the Tang gang tokens? Because I wouldn't mind doing that with my Coexist token as well. This has actually given me some ideas. Just going through this.
I would pair your Coexist token up to one of these Matrix tokens, Stephen. Well, I can do it for you if you want, and I'll burn it.
100% am. 100% am. That was actually that's actually one of the things that I wanted to do with the Coexist token. Actually, moving forward, whenever someone wants to come and promote their ecosystem or talk about their token or anything like that, normally you would have someone like, I'm going to pay the person in. Like, for example, you'd pay me in token supply and say, we want to shill our project, so we're going to give you money, Coexist and Stephen. But instead, what I want to do is I want to burn all the Coexist supply, and then anyone that wants to come in on the show to talk about their token, they simply just buy into the Coexist token and then burn that liquidity. And then so basically it's just continuously rewarding holders. So whoever holds Coexist is always winning based on that. So I don't get anything out of it, but the community does.
Yeah, I think that's the way it should be, right?
I think it's such a cool idea. Like, no one's really ever done anything like that, and it's very community based. It's very it follows along the ethos of the Atropa ecosystem and some of the teachings that Maria. So we were calling him Maria, but now it's Hamad. It's kind of a bit tricky actually, because it used to be Maria, so it's almost like, do we call the Maria era actions Maria, and then anything that happened after that, do we call it Hamad, or do we just continuously refer to the old Maria as also Hamad now?
Yeah, you should try your best to get Maria on a stream. I think if Maria spent an hour trying to explain what was going on in Atropa, we would all benefit massively, right?
Oh,
do you think
God,
that would just be an amazing thing to do?
I think I have asked, possibly in the past, and I asked and I got shut down like in a very aggressive way. Yeah, so I've asked like once, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, got shut down aggressively. I think that's enough. So, yeah.
So we're not getting
Man,
any tokens. Do you think we've bamboozled too many people with the whole thing, or?
because you have too many tokens.
No, I said we're not getting many questions. Do you think we're?
Yeah, there's not many people watching actually, which I'm surprised, but not really surprised at the same time, because it's a new ecosystem that probably no one's really heard of. It's probably, to be honest, like the lowest views I've had in I would say probably well over almost a year, to be honest, which is quite surprising. But yeah, I think maybe a lot of people maybe don't really like the nitty gritty of the learning. They want to just
Yeah.
talk about my token, and when the token that I'm holding is being spoken about, then I'm interested, rather than actually learning about the how things work. I'm definitely more interested in how things work. So, but yeah, I'll just go through and see if there's any relevant questions. So, seems easier for every token to have their own running liquid loan style protocol to be able to borrow value from their respective token, thus never selling. Imagine that forever up ecosystem. So liquid loan style protocol, obviously, where you can put up your tokens for collateral.
It's basically saying, could you put one of these tokens into liquid loans and borrow against it? I think that's what they're saying there.
Yeah, but for each of your tokens to have their own liquid loans protocol. So could you borrow against it?
You don't really need to do that, right? Because you can get a passive income just by holding the token. Either hold the tax token or pair up two of the core tokens in a LP, and then you never have to sell. You can just take the passive income, right? That's really the idea, yeah. Just to build up a stack and put them in LPs or own the tax tokens and just take passive income. That's the idea.
Well, it is the idea, but it's also the concept of you're basically leveraging your tokens to pump your tokens.
Yeah,
that's kind of like the idea behind. It seems like what he's saying with the liquid loans, but there's kind of that concept doesn't ever really sit well with me, because it basically just adds a bubble on top of a bubble on top of a bubble.
Leverage. It's leverage. Exactly. That's the issue with it. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas this is kind of working not in reverse, but you already got this like quote unquote fake liquidity, and now you're like filling it up.
Exactly. And it's deflationary, right? So it has its own, it's got its kind of lock, because it's deflationary, it's got lock growth in it to come.
Man, you know what would be really cool with this? Like, not even to make wouldn't even need to make, well, I mean, I guess you could make a website obviously, but just to put these concepts about how it's deflationary in just just simple little
website's coming. Actually, it's on its way, so we'll get one out probably in the next few weeks with all these concepts in there, and we'll also provide some tools to understand kind of how much money you're making, because sometimes when you hold LPs, it's a little bit tricky, right, to understand whether you're making money or not. Yeah. So
yeah, that was actually something that I wanted to dig into a little bit more. So you obviously in this you also discussed it now, but I just want to bring this up here. So pair the core tokens for no IL, so basically IL free passive income. So again, help me wrap my mind around that. So how is it not IL?
You only get IL when you pair two tokens that have diverging prices, right? So if one price goes up and the other goes down, or they're not correlated, then that's when IL appears. But if your tokens are behaving in lockstep, then you eliminate the IL, because the prices are always the same.
Got you. Okay, got you. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's quite a cool component here.
That's a very cool component. Well done.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so
obviously it has the quote unquote issue of, but then is it an issue? I'd almost argue that it's not necessarily an issue, but it has the quote unquote issue that you're still only going to be able to sell X amount based on how much like real liquidity is in there. But I don't mind that concept. I like that idea of kind of almost training the community in a way of
exactly. This is what we're doing. If you want a bigger position, you're going to have to put some liquidity in, right? And by putting liquidity in, you taking ownership, and you're going to behave responsibly. That's the whole kind of idea, yeah, right? So the whole idea is to start with low liquidity and go high, because that sort of creates ownership and a sense of belonging, right? If you start with high liquidity, then you're going to have pump and dump, right? So this way, you kind of letting the community take ownership, do the right things, and add liquidity as it's needed. And like I said before, if the community owns liquidity, if someone does want to dump, then they can just remove it, right? And that'll protect themselves, and it will protect the price. So the whole sort of community-owned liquidity aspect of it is itself a feature. It really is, right? If some guy looks at this and says, I love this, it's deflationary, it's robust, it's got a pump, I want a big position. They can't get a big position unless they provide liquidity. See, that's the whole concept. That's one of the key concepts. And by providing the liquidity, they're not going to want to dump, right? Because they'll just be dumping on their own liquidity. So actually, whatever way you look at this, it's just good, right? It just is. It's just good. It's just the way LPs and webs work, right? It's just good.
It's really good because it's literally it's redefining how the buyer interacts with the community and the token. They're looking at the perception of what the token is completely shifts. It's not something where I'm just waiting for that 10,000x so I can dump everything and then leave. It's really like, okay, no, I'm actually going to become a part of this ecosystem. I'm going to provide liquidity. I'm going to use it as something that I can just take passive income out of, just bit by bit. As it grows, I'm going to sell a little bit. I don't have to wreck the chart. I don't have to wait for a 10,000x. Exactly. It can really change the way people interact with it.
There'll always be enough liquidity to take out passive income. There might not always be enough liquidity to close your bag unless you provided that liquidity yourself. Then you're just removing your own liquidity.
That's an idea. Holy shit.
It really works, right?
How did you come up with these kinds of concepts?
Well, to be honest, I didn't think of all these things until I kind of got through it. And then there, a lot of this just dawned on me, like, wow, this is actually crazy, man. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. It wasn't like I set off with all these things in mind. It was like, okay, how can I do this? And then it was like, but hey, low liquidity is actually a feature, right? It's not a bug, right? And then I was trying to add on more deflation, and then the robustness thing. And then, people were saying, well, what happens if someone copies it? I'm saying, fine. It's just copy it, and it just makes it more powerful, right?
Yeah. Not only copy it, but you copy it, and then you just take a little bit of these tokens, and then add it into what you've copied.
Add it into your copy. Yeah, it just works in every which way you look at it. Honestly,
man. See, this to me is like this concept of liquidity on PulseChain is what makes PulseChain, in my opinion, makes it the best blockchain.
Yes.
Like
I tried to do this on base, not possible, right?
Say again?
Sorry, Stephen, I keep on interrupting you. It's because I'm excited. I tried to do this on base. It's not possible. It's not possible. There's just too many impediments to do it. Yeah.
Interesting. Just out of curiosity, what are the impediments on base chain?
Well, the cost is immense. And also it's, you kind of on base and even on like Solana, you are very, you've funneled into protocols, right? You can't really get to the base chain that easily. Whereas on PulseChain you can. So, you can build your own token easily, you can pair it up easily. If you want to set up a new pair on base, it's like $40 or $50, right? Just to do that. And if you're setting up 4,000, it's huge. But you can plug into an existing pair, which is what, but you can't create your own easily. So there are just too many roadblocks, right?
So it's extremely expensive just to create a PLP.
Yeah, just to create one is expensive. To create a coin is expensive.
I see. Whereas all of that is like pennies on PulseChain.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is really like, again, like prices are down and stuff, but honestly, like the only thing that like it hasn't stressed me out at all. The only thing that maybe has stressed me out is that I didn't take enough profit out that I could actually like eat, for example. Yeah. Like I've got enough to eat, but just that little bit extra. Like my family lives in WA, and I've got a new niece that's just born, and I want to go meet her. But okay, if I'd taken a little bit of money out, I could have, okay, I can just go fly to WA, no problem, without even thinking about it. But now it's like, oh, I've got to calculate it. I've got this hike coming up on the weekend. It's like, oh, I've got to really calculate every dollar. I wasn't wise enough to take any out in that last top, or at least convert it into stables. That's the only thing. But otherwise, everything else is like, this is building time. This is the time to be creating these sorts of things. And
we have a strategy called the Holy Grail, which is to earn the 66 LPs on the core coins, the 12 coins, right? So that's 66 LPs. So to earn the same dollar value in each of those, to earn all 3 tax coins, and then to pair PLS with every coin, all 15 of the coins. That's the Holy Grail. If you can achieve the Holy Grail, then I think you can live off your passive income. Really, I honestly do. So we got guys that are out trying to do that.
Nice. Yeah, and PulseChain is that's where the majority of the liquidity flows through with the RBots.
The RBots are just brilliant, right? Yeah. They're really good.
So tokens, pairing it up with PulseChain or wrapped PulseChain, obviously. So Henry Flores is asking us, so prices work in lockstep. One can't be higher than another. So I guess I'll get you to answer this, but it doesn't seem like they can be. But if you'd like to answer this.
They do work in lockstep, but they're not equal in price. They cascade down. So if you list them in order from Mandala all the way down to Epiphany, Mandala has the highest price and Epiphany the lowest. But they can't get out of whack. They will always be in that constant proportion.
Yeah, look at this. So look at this here. So you can see here, Mandala's the highest. Maestro, all the way down, you can see the price is getting just a little bit less, and that's all based on the proportion of the tokens that are, because of the tokens that are burnt in the liquidity.
Correct, between those coins, yeah. And because it's burnt, it's fixed forever, right? So that those proportions will never ever break down. They'll always be like that for eternity. Which is why you don't get any IL when you pair them up, right? Doesn't matter who adds more liquidity or anything, they'll always be in that proportion.
Holy shit. That's actually something that really is so obvious, but it never really clicked. It just in my mind, whenever I thought about burnt liquidity within the Atropa ecosystem, I always kind of like imagined over time the burnt liquidity, let's just say the pool is like this, the token is getting less and less because people are buying it out, but they're not really buying it out. They're just swapping one for the other.
Yeah, but even like all the buy and sell transactions just sort of increase. It's hard to explain. But once you've paired it up and you've locked it and you've burnt it, I mean, you've got to do this right at the beginning. You can't do it at any other point in time. You have to do it right at the beginning. Once you've created those ratios at the very beginning, they stay in place forever. It doesn't matter, what other LPs are added into the mix. But as I said, you've got to do it like right at the beginning. So once once LPs are already in place, it's too late. You can't change
that
it.
Was that. Yeah, that's man.
I've just got a text from someone saying I'm speaking nicely, but I should be more nicer to you, Stephen.
Oh no, I feel like you're being very nice. I don't know where that.
I'm laughing.
Wow, that's man, that's really like wow.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool. This is very cool, right?
It's extremely cool.
It's hard to understand why people don't just kind of get it, but I think these things do require education, right? But it's very cool.
They require what? Sorry?
Education.
Yes, of course. So what helped you determine these kinds of proportions with the matrix? Was there any specific math that you were trying to adhere to, or were you just like, okay, if I do it like this, then this is approximately what I'm thinking is going to happen?
I mean, the key objective was to get the prices in lockstep, and that's pretty easy to achieve. It was just, should I make them equal, or should I make them cascading, or should I make them increasing? Just create something of interest. If they're all equal, I think that's boring. Maybe it would have explained things easier, but that would have been boring. So I just put them in a cascade just to make it a bit more entertaining, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the key principle is that they work in lockstep, right? That's really what you're trying to achieve, is that, you want to freeze the proportions so that you have one big meta token.
Man, and then, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, that's the basis for no IL, right? That's how you get passive income out of it without having to worry about impermanent loss, and how you get the deflation. Because if the prices weren't in lockstep and you burnt those LPs, it wouldn't be deflationary. That's a little bit hard to understand, but that's true. You've got to have these lockstep prices to cause deflation when you burn the LPs. So there are two reasons why you're looking for the lockstep: to eliminate impermanent loss and to cause deflation when you burn the LPs.
This is a beautiful concept, man. This is really...
I mean, I think the thing about it is that I made the point already, but I'd like to make it again, is that the R bots will just make this work, even if we all just walked away from it, right? The R bots would just sweep through this, create all this deflation, keep everything sort of working, and will eventually just pump these prices. I mean, it could take years, but by handing it over to the community, understanding what the community needs to do, we can make it work for us. And by doing simple things, I mean, we got a 45x out of it, right, in 3 days, just by doing simple things, by adding liquidity, So we just, with some education, the community owning it, doing all the right things. There are not many right things to do, right? Add PLS liquidity. If you've got your own coin, or if you like another coin, pair it up with the matrix. And then if you're lazy, hold the tax coins, because you're going to just earn a yield on the tax coins. But if you like messing around with like money Lego, then you can put some LPs together and you'll still get your IL free yield, right? So you by investing in this, you're going to get PulseChain ETF growth. which if we're bullish on PulseChain, you don't need to go chasing, green candles anyway. Just put your money in here, and you're going to get passive income out of it. I mean, where do you actually get that, if you think about it? And the whole thing is deflationary. So the prices are have something pushing them up behind it. The deflation is pushing the prices up. So in fact, it's all everyone wants, and it's community owned. So it works, right?
I love all the names, by the way.
Yeah,
really cool names. Yeah. This is a really, really fascinating concept. It's like it's kind of taken the core principles of what the Atropa ecosystem is, and then applied like a particular kind of mathematical logic to it. Yeah, this is beautiful, man. So I'll just want to go through some of these questions as well. So Hexologist Heart. So some people have said this as well. So why does he keep calling him Maria she? I think it's just because I think a lot of people do that by accident. It's Maria.
Yeah, that is an accident. Yeah, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. How do you still trust someone that aggressively shuts you down on an interview? I mean, I don't know. I'm just used to it, I guess. I don't know. It's just one of those things with Maria. It's like it's kind of like what do you call it? It's like an initiation into the Atropa ecosystem. If you haven't been abused by Maria, then are you really in the Atropa ecosystem? Like everyone in the IRC chat logs has been like abused or something from Maria. So it's just kind of like it's just like an initiation. So I missed the start of this, so we'll have to definitely watch this. Definitely watch this again. So Hexologist Heart, I like this idea. Oh, Mr. Rock Jockey, good to see you, bro. I'm going to be making some idea of the low liquidity to help stop big players from destroying charts is genius. I think this is what is happening with PDI and Bear. And some other Atropa coins. I've been making a killing in LPs. Nice, Hexologist Heart. Yeah. What's your? Yeah, that's a cool way of thinking about it. That actually. So I want to ask you, before I ask you about what your concept behind this is, with everything that's happening with PDI and the Atropa ecosystem. My boy Muddy, who got me into the Atropa ecosystem, and again, he's probably more like you, where he's just more. He just, like, even yourself, I can just tell that everyone keeps crediting me, but I honestly, I'm learning from you, man. Like, you're like, oh, you give me credit, but I feel like I'm learning from you, honestly. And just even the burnt liquidity and the ratio, it's such an obvious thing that it's just never, I don't know. Now it's just like I understand it on a whole nother level that I just didn't understand before, or I thought I understood, but I actually didn't. So one of the things he was talking about with PDI and Atropa was, prior to this massive dump, PDI was the spear for PulseChain, which Somi was basically highlighting. PDI was the spear. When like PDI pumped, everything else started pumping. Now what my friend is saying, what he thinks is going to happen is PDI is going to be like the bulldozer that pushes everything behind it. So other things are going to pump, but then PDI, because it's in so much liquidity, it's actually now going to push everything in front of it. So it's not going to get pumped, but it'll pull everything, it'll push everything along. It's not going to pull, it's going to push now. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you. It kind of, when he says it to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, I get you, man. But I don't really get what he's saying on an intuitive level. I do understand what he's saying, but not on an intuitive level. So I guess, one, does that make any sense to you? And two, how do you see everything that's going on with the Atropa ecosystem lately? Like, everything's dumped, and like, how are you viewing everything now?
Yeah, I'm confused about it. I'm not really sure. I think Maria could do us all a huge service by explaining a lot of these things so that we don't, have to try and dig around in the weeds to work it all out. I think the work you're doing on the Treasury spine is immense. And I think, perhaps that's what Maria wants us to do, right? To dig into these things and to educate ourselves. But I think there's a lot of guessing going on, right? And it's very difficult to understand, how that's all going to fit together. Like when I look at that spine, I can see the coins coming together and the arb working, but at the same time, I just see this huge supply, and I wonder how that's ever going to resolve itself. And then you get these gaps between like FDIC and Fed, and then even bigger gaps between, Fed and PDI. Now, is PDI going to come down to meet those prices, or is Fed and T-bill going to go up to meet PDI? I don't know the answer to that. And is PDI going to be some sort of bulldozer? I don't really know. I mean, there are a lot of theories, right? I think there are a number of theories around whether PDI could peg algorithmically. And I think that's a real possibility, because to collateralize PDI, a $40 billion supply, is going to be impossible. So, whether it can be done algorithmically, I think it's possible. But again, someone has to set up those protocols, right? And someone has to bulldoze and, put in place the incentives for people and our bots to algorithmically peg that. And at the moment, I'm not seeing that. So my hope, and I believe, is that Maria has this. He understands what needs to be done. But I'm just struggling with the lack of clarity at the moment around what we should be doing to help that process. Which is why I think it would be amazing if you could get Maria to explain himself. What do you think of that? I mean, it's because, I'm bullish on it all happening, and I feel PulseChain needs that narrative as well, right? We need that to happen. We need Atropa, we need PDI, we need that to succeed. We need T-bill to, we need all of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like the Atropa ecosystem liquidity is pretty much a massive part of the backbone of PulseChain. Massive. Like, I think people seriously underestimate how integral it is to PulseChain, or the PulseChain liquidity setup.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think these liquidity pools, you can kind of see from this little matrix structure how powerful they can be. And it's hard to know what's hidden in Atropa, whether it can give us a fractional banking system, whether we could use it, PDI to buy things, or to store value in. I think I don't know. Maria's clever, right? I mean, if you look at these spine arbs, I mean, it's crazy stuff, right? It's just beyond most people. So I think there's something brewing there, Stephen. There's something brewing, but I don't know how to grab it. You're doing an excellent job there. Honestly, you are doing an excellent job trying to understand it all. And
thanks, man.
I've learned a huge amount from you. Honestly, I've learned a huge amount from you.
No, I appreciate that. I feel like I definitely relay a lot of information that comes to me. So I'm basically trying to learn from others, and then I relay it to everyone. So I will actually be having Stu. I was going to have Stu on yesterday to talk about some of the updates that he's seeing with the Treasury spine. So I will be having him on tomorrow. So we're going to dig into some of that. So anyone that's watching now, and obviously for yourself, then tune into that one. Bud and I are also going to continue to theorize some of these concepts. He reached out to me. He's got some concepts that he wanted to talk about a while ago, but I felt like I wanted to just kind of put a few pieces together first, based like what he was saying, the concepts that I felt he was trying to bring. I wanted to basically set some pieces up with the audience first before I felt like the things he wanted to bring forward could be more easily understood by everyone. So that's kind of what I've done with some of these episodes. So Yeah, man. I think the spine is something that's just such a fascinating concept, and it's in some ways it looks like you can sort of see it, but you don't quite know what it is, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just but it's the same as the Atropa ecosystem. When you first started to wrap your head around it, it's like, okay, I can see all these things that are happening, and just straight away there's something in your heart that's like, this is amazing. What is it? And it kind of looks like it's like God mode, but you don't fully understand how and why. And that's how I feel like the Treasury spine is. So
Well, I'm pleased you are going down that rabbit hole, because for me personally, it's far easier just to follow you and see what you're doing there. I do keep a very close watch. I think I would struggle to do what you're doing. So I think that's excellent work.
oh, thanks,
Yeah.
man. I wish more people would do it as well, though. So then we can have more like diversity in how people can understand it, instead of it all
Yeah.
just kind of coming from the one source. So
And
it's really
difficult. It's difficult to do, Stephen. I think you one of a kind, right? Honestly, that's not easy to do. Reading the code, trying to understand it. Even just sort of mentally getting your head around some of those arbs, it's not easy, right? I mean, it works two ways, doesn't it? There's the mint, and then there's the claim. So, it's like a rowing boat. It's working two ways. It's not easy to grasp. So you definitely are. Yeah, you're going to be unique in this. I don't think many people are going to want to get their brains wrapped around that.
I'm just I'm kind of like it's kind of crazy. There's a part of me that's like it's like addicted to the pain of learning or something, in a way. Because it's quite a learning is, stress is new thing, like new connection being formed in your brain as well. This is like this is pushing your neural pathways, and that is
Yeah.
an element of what stress is. So studying it is like a stressful thing, but you're also like, the thrill of discovery is also amazing. So yeah.
Well, if you can get Maria onto a stream, oh yeah, I mean, I could just feel how much value he could give just by spending an hour with him, right? Just asking him a couple of fundamental questions. Wow, what a game changer that would be, right?
He said he has said that he would do like pre-recorded things, but not interviews.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So, but yeah, I definitely would love to have him on. So, no doubt about that. I have asked. My boy here, Sleepy J. Sleepy J. So he's also building a whole new ecosystem as well. So this is the time for builders. So Sleepy
Yeah.
J, he's building a whole. He's got doing similar things to you, actually. A whole network of tax tokens, and he's interconnecting them and creating
Nice.
his own ETF, and he's connecting with all the different little sub communities within PulseChain. And again, this is the perfect time to do it while everything is low.
Yes.
But
Thank
everyone
you.
only thinks of things when it's high.
Yeah, I mean, this is ideal, right? I mean, we're getting in right at the bottom now.
Exactly.
And I'm bullish. I'm bullish on PulseChain in a big way, right?
Same.
So,
Same.
hugely, yeah.
Absolutely. Nice. It looks like Mandala's been up 100%, 111% in the last 24 hours, which is nice. Ask if he's
Yeah.
going to list token info on Deck Screener. Will you be linking token
I think
info?
eventually we'll publish the website and link it all up onto Deck Screener.
Ah, nice. Nice. Okay. So you will eventually get there.
Yeah.
But this is cool, man. I really love it. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your ecosystem. And I think, I mean, even for myself, it's been a massive learning experience, and it's been really cool to see how, you know, the PDI and Atropa chart being lockstep, and now seeing this, but in an even, I mean, well, the Atropa ecosystem is like that as well, really. So, but just seeing it again in another example, it just shines more light on the concepts that Maria has introduced into cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. So I think this is really, really cool, and a really, really cool lesson. And this is why I really wanted to have this conversation, to really perhaps not reframe, but get people to, and even myself, to see the Atropa ecosystem in a slightly different light, and then you can make different connections in your brain, which is exactly what I've done. So this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing. And is there anything else that you feel like you want to share or talk about, or you think that we might have missed?
I think I got it all out in my excitement, and I'm very grateful, Stephen, for allowing me to get it out. I mean, I am very excited about it, perhaps too much so, but thank you very much for allowing me to come on and present to you and to your viewers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, my absolute pleasure. And I guess I would like to finish on this. So Hexologist Heart is saying, I want to buy, but I just can't buy when something is up 45x and 111% in 24 hours. I'll be buying them though. So this is definitely something that I agree with from a buyer's perspective, when you're looking at something that's just done a massive run. So in the context of your ecosystem, how would you answer this question, or this statement rather? How would you counter this statement?
I mean, I think it depends on your long-term view, right? If you go to did you have CIFA or one of the tax coins open and just zoom out? You know, these pumps are tiny, right? I mean, they're tiny, you know, compared to where we launched, right? So, you know, if you have a long-term view, then it probably doesn't matter if you're going to get in now or on a pullback. To be honest, I'm not sure if we're going to see that much of a pullback. I mean, now that I've said that, we probably will. But there's a lot of inefficiency in the system, and that's getting ironed out, and that's what's causing the pump. It's the inefficiencies that are getting ironed out. So,
and I guess, go on, sorry.
So I think what's happening is it's just finding, particularly on the tax coins, it's just finding a balance where it should be, because the RBOTs are not working well enough to bring all these coins prices back into proportion. So and that's what's causing the pump, because, you know, when people are adding liquidity, suddenly the RBOTs now have new routes to go through and fix things. And I think that's that plus the low liquidity and the sort of interest in the coins is what's driving the price out.
Now, one thing that potentially could counter this kind of sentiment as well is the fact that the majority of the liquidity is burned. So the sell pressure that can actually come to create a dump is probably not that big. And I wonder if there's a way that you could easily calculate how much potential sell pressure there could be. So, for example, you look at Mandala and $1 billion supply, like the first top 15 holders is liquidity, and then you've got someone who owns 1.01%, someone who owns 1.25%, and then after that, someone that owns 0.33%.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Your answer is better than mine. There isn't a lot of dumpability here. There aren't that many big holders.
Right. But I wonder if there's I'm sure there'd be a formula. And this is where, honestly, using AI has, why did I not use AI for these types of questions earlier? I have no idea. Like, even the way that I've understood ratios and everything like this, I'm like, why has it taken me so long to do this? AI is just fantastic. You could probably basically go to AI, insert this kind of scenario. Like, you could probably copy and paste this chart here, copy and paste all the the block explorer holders list, and say how to potential and how much can this actually sell down based on the fact that there's this much burnt liquidity. How much can actually, like, can the chart be affected?
Yeah. Yeah,
probably
I
get
don't
some
know. I don't know if there are. I mean, if you could work out how many liquid positions there were, which I think you probably could, and assume that everyone dumped it in one go, then you could definitely work out where the price might go. But of course, not everyone's going to do that. I mean, the other angle to this is, a lot of this is paired in LPs, right? So people can break LPs and sell. But again, I think we need to assume that people in LPs are in for the longer term, right? They're not going to dump. So it is only the liquid holders that are going to cause down pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So yes, Hexologist Heart, good statement. And definitely from a mindset perspective of, do I want to buy a top? But I think the scenario here is very different to a token where you've got people that are shilling the crap out of it all over Twitter, and there's tons of liquidity, and then there's mega whales.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The liquidity is like, anyone could rug the liquidity. It's just a completely different scenarios. But I do agree with that sentiment in general. But I think it definitely is worth like reconsidering that perspective based on the dynamics of this setup. That's what I would think. But still, as a matter of like mindset principle, I always hate buying greens. You always end up well, not always, but more often than not, you do end up regretting it. So, but this is quite a unique scenario. Yeah, Sleepy J unlocked another level. This is exactly. So I gotta have you on as well, Sleepy J. We gotta cover these things more and more, man. I think what you're doing is awesome as well. And then of course, Mr. Fast Abdul, who's always here for the tech. So there's some good tech in here, Fast Abdul. Good tech. All right, man. Well, yeah, let's kind of round this up. I think we've covered some good ground. So, any last comments?
No, thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure, man. Yeah, and as this continues to evolve, as this continues to grow, if you ever want to come back on, and if anything like major happens, you've got some, or for example, maybe your website is launched, or you're starting to see liquidity start to improve, or you're starting to see people in the community really getting to that point of unlocking this passive income dream, jump back on stream and let's keep talking about it, man. This will be a cool project to follow over time.
Thank you. Yeah, of course, the other way around as well. If you ever want me back, just ask, and I'll drop everything to do it for you, Stephen. Thank you very much.
Oh, awesome, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, all right, cool. Lovely. Thanks for joining. Thanks everyone for joining and contributing in the chat and asking good questions. So everybody, take care. Have a good week.
Thanks. How do I get out of here, Stephen? Are we off? Or
it'll